All right. A Philadelphia radio host has been fired after a controversial interview with President Biden. WURD, an independent Black-owned talk radio station, landed Biden's first interview following the June 27th presidential debate. During a CNN interview, the station's host, Andrea Lawful-Sanders, admitted to asking Biden questions at the White House that the White House had sent her in advance.
You each you asked 4 questions, and maybe that's what you were allowed to ask by the campaign or the White House. But they were essentially the same questions, both interviews, about accomplishments, progress in your respective state, what's at stake in the election, what he has to say about his debate performance, and what he would say to voters who think their vote doesn't matter or might sit this election out. Were those questions given to you by the White House, or did you have, or the campaign, or did you have to submit questions ahead of this interview?
The questions were sent to me for approval. I approved them.
Okay, so the White House sent the questions to you ahead of the interview?
Yes.
Okay.
I got several questions, 8 of them, and the 4 that were chosen were the ones that I approved.
All right, so that did not sit well with the radio station. Here's a part of the statement that the station posted on social media about the incident. WURD radio remains an independent voice that our audience can trust, will hold elected officials accountable. As Pennsylvania's only independent Black-owned radio talk show station, WURD radio has cultivated that trust in our audience over our 20-year history. This is something we take very seriously. Agreeing to a predetermined set of questions jeopardizes that trust and is not a practice that WURD radio engages in or endorses as a matter of practice or official policy. As Pennsylvania's only independent Black-owned talk radio station, WURD radio has cultivated that trust with our audience over a 20-year history. This is something we take very seriously, and agreeing to this, I think that we already went through that. This is something to take seriously. Agreeing to a premeditated set of questions jeopardizes trust and is not a practice that WURD radio engages in or endorses as a matter of official policy. I think that was doubled there. Let me go to you, Gavin. What are your thoughts about what this host should or should not have done?
So I think this is a really tough story. Certainly when I first saw this interview between Andrea and Victor Blackwell, I did not think that the story would have the outcome that it did. I guess having been inside, the room and in the building in terms of in the political space and seeing how this often works, I guess my perspective is that it's not entirely uncommon for the staff, supporting a certain principle to go back and forth with reporters and journalists in seeking to set up or line up an interview to establish the guardrails or parameters or scope of a particular, interview. Nor is it necessarily uncommon for questions to sort of be massaged, back and forth, again, between the staff supporting a principal and a potential journalist seeking to interview that host. It's not entirely uncommon. It's really not an uncommon practice. I think right now, though, we're at a situation in which a lot of Americans are looking for truth and are looking for clarity and are looking for transparency from the president as to, how he handles more off the cuff, non-scripted, non-teleprompter, sort of exchanges. And so I think it was sort of the perfect storm in the scenario where listeners were, I suppose, hoping to hear the president just sort of, responding in real time to questions without, knowing beforehand what those questions would be. Clearly, the policy of this radio station is that the way in which this reporter conducted herself was not in line with the policies of the radio station. I certainly am not one to, I can't comment on the extent to which what she did truly, did or did not conflict with the policies, nor,
Right.
should I second guess the decision that was made by this radio station. I guess speaking in generalities, I would hope that, this is a Black-owned radio station, serving, for Black listeners by Black reporters. I guess my hope would be that in a situation like this, again, without knowing the specifications, the specifics here, that perhaps there could have been a way to deal with the situation without terminating the reporter here. Again, I do not know the nature or the relationship that, the reporter has with this radio station, but I guess I would hope that there could have been another way to resolve this situation without terminating this reporter.
Gavin, I think a lot of people are thinking about just the process of the behind the scenes. Dr. Dibinga, it seems as though, yes, often journalists go on TV and they talk about the guidelines and they talk about, how the sausage is made. They talk about what goes on behind the scenes. I'm just wondering why she went on this show. Was there permission? And was there even a discussion just in terms of leadership and policy? I just think that there are a lot of holes that need to be filled in because she went on the show for some reason. Perhaps she thought she had the green light, ended up at a red light after it was all said and done, though, Dr. Dibinga.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Gavin said, it's definitely unfortunate. And I found it. And it kind of goes back to the first part of our whole discussion that people are nitpicking every single thing that Biden does, that they're reaching out to people who normally would not get any attention, right? When was the last time you saw a Black radio host be interviewed on CNN or MSNBC for an interview with the president, right? So I think she kind of got caught up in the whole frustration of what's going on with Biden and how everybody's watching his every single word. I think some news sites are actually posting transcripts of his speeches so that people can actually kind of go through it word by word and look at where he slipped up. We're in silly season as it relates to that, but they're not doing that for Trump, by the way. The thing that we have to be mindful of is that, again, this is something that happens all the time in radio. And going back to what Gavin said, it would depend on the standard set by the station. If their standard is, we don't do that, you don't take prepared questions, and she violated that, then it would make sense that she has to go. We saw this a couple of weeks ago. Remember, Candace, with Tyler, the singer, and the Breakfast Club, She went on the Breakfast Club, and she was like, her manager, don't ask about this, don't ask about that, don't ask about that. And Charlemagne asked about all of it. And so there's a certain level of integrity that stations are supposed to have. Karen Hunter talked about this. She said she would never take an interview where she can't ask the question she wants. But if somebody said, you have to take our questions, she would deny the interview from the beginning and wouldn't do it. So it comes down to the integrity of the station, and it comes down to the integrity of the host. And if the integrity of the host and the integrity of the station are in conflict, then clearly ownership is going to win out, right, as it relates to that. And so I think it's an unfortunate situation all around. Clearly, this radio station has its standards, and they felt like they weren't met by her. But I think that we have to be careful as it relates to those of us in this media space in general to not nitpick every single thing. Biden has done 15 events since the debate, right? And it's still not enough for people. We can't keep nitpicking every single thing. The campaign's going to do what it's going to do. The radio stations are going to do what they're going to do. And we have to make sure that we're respecting that. And it doesn't seem like she did in this case.
Dr. Malveaux, was there a miss somewhere, you think, if you think about the host, what she did and what perhaps was happening in terms of policy, because they said that their policy is that they don't take questions ahead of time. So I'm just wondering if there was a misunderstanding about what the policy of the station even was, because it is strange that it ended up like this.
It is very strange. I have a radio talk show Monday mornings at 9 a.m. on WPFW. I think Omar Congo has been my guest once. And people do not tell me what I'm going to talk about. Now, people may suggest, I did today's Monday. So this morning I had Liz Thea Harris from Poor People's Campaign, and I had a young lady who has been working on the Chevron case, the regulatory case. In her case, she sent me a couple of talking points because the Chevron case is very complicated to me. I'm not an attorney, but she sent me some talking points. But I asked her what I felt like asking her, which wasn't necessarily the talking points. But basically, people don't tell me what to say. It's going to come out some other kind of way. With Liz Thea Harris, she's a close acquaintance. Reverend Barber is a friend. And it was fairly free-flowing. But I had people give me questions. I'm saying, we're not going to roll like that. I've read your bio. I've read your book. Let's just talk. But in politics, and when I used to do a lot of national television. One of the things that used to crack me up is you go on the air with a Republican, and they would have not only their talking points, they would be ordered. Democrats, we just say whatever. But Republicans are always very disciplined. So if you debated 3 Republicans in a week, they would all say the same thing. Just saying a lot, I don't know the backstory. I do know that WURD is a great station. It's owned by a Black family. The dad used to own it. He was a physician. Now the daughter is the CEO, Sarah Lomax. They're terrific people. So I just think there's something that we don't know. There's something that we don't know here, because this just doesn't seem egregious. Some of the questions that you would ask President Biden are questions anybody would ask him. I mean, you want to know how you felt about your debate. You want to know, what your accomplishments are. So I just think that there's something missing. But I'm sorry for the sister, and I'm sorry for the station. But no, Sister Girl said, I'm not a journalist. She made all these qualifiers. So I do think that there's a mismatch that we're not hearing about.
Yeah. I think there also, an agreement that there was some information. I don't know if we will hear about it in a lawsuit, but I do not think that discussion, especially for her, since she lost her job, is over.
Time to get paid, blow up like Fanbase exclusive audio rooms are here. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Monetize your live podcast and most engaging conversations. You can now create exclusive audio chat rooms only for your subscribers and biggest fans. And as a user, subscribe, listen, and talk to your favorite creators. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Because everyone's a fan of something, and everyone has a fan base.
And if you don't know